In 1979, Youngstown, Ohio, had a future. By 1982, it didn't. 50,000 jobs vanished. Not over decades, over months. An entire city gutted in the blink of an eye. The adults lost their paychecks, but the kids, they lost something nobody talks about, something deeper than money. So what really happened to the children of the Rust Belt?
To understand what these kids lost, you first have to understand what they had. Picture this. It's 1977. You're 10 years old, and you live in a steel town.
Maybe it's Gary, Indiana. Maybe Flint, Michigan. Maybe Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Doesn't matter. The towns all looked the same, and they all ran on one thing.
The factory. Your dad works there. Your uncle works there. Your grandfather worked there for 36 years and retired with a pension. The factory wasn't just a building.
It was the entire economy of your town squeezed under one roof. It paid for the grocery store, the barber shop, the little league uniforms, the new gymnasium at your school.
And here's what most people forget. For these kids, the factory meant stability. It meant your parents came home at the same time every day. It meant Christmas had presents.
A steel worker in 1977 earned the equivalent of $65,000 today. No college degree required. Just show up, work hard. The American dream was yours. These weren't wealthy families, but they were secure. Completely, unshakably secure. And then, almost overnight, that security vanished, and it wasn't coming back. The collapse didn't arrive with a single explosion. It came like a slow-motion earthquake. First, foreign competition. Japanese and German steel. Cheaper, better, flooding American markets. Then came automation. Machines replacing men. And finally, corporate boardrooms 1,000 miles away. Close this plant. Consolidate that one. Ship production overseas. Between 1979 and 1983, the steel industry lost 350,000 jobs. The auto industry, another 200,000. All concentrated in one narrow belt of American cities. The Rust Belt. For the adults, this was an economic catastrophe. But for the kids, it was something different, something stranger. Kids don't read unemployment statistics. Kids read faces, and suddenly, every face around them changed. Every single one. The parents, the teachers, the neighbors, everyone looked different now. First came the silence. Dad stopped talking about work, not because he was tired, because there was no work to talk about. Dinners got quieter. Portions got smaller. Then came the tension. Parents arguing behind doors. Voices low enough you couldn't hear the words, but loud enough to know something was very wrong. The name brand cereal disappeared. A plain white box showed up instead. Nobody explained why, but even a 10-year-old understands when things start disappearing from the kitchen. Then came the disappearances. Your best friend wasn't at school Monday morning. His family moved. Maybe Texas, maybe North Carolina, chasing a rumor about a job. No goodbye. Just an empty desk at school. Then another empty desk. Then another. By the mid-'80s, Youngstown lost nearly a third of its entire population. Flint lost a quarter of its people. Gary lost almost half. For the kids who stayed, it felt like watching your entire world empty out in slow motion. Every few weeks, another friend, another neighbor, another familiar face, just gone. And nobody sat you down to explain it. Nobody told you why everyone was leaving. And then came the thing that hurt worst of all, the thing nobody warned them about, the thing no economic report from that era ever captured.
The shame. These kids absorbed their parents' shame like sponges absorb water. and they didn't even have the vocabulary to describe what they were feeling.
A sociologist named Catherine Newman studied this phenomenon. She called it the fear of falling. These kids watched their parents do everything right and still lose everything.
The implicit promise that hard work equals security had been broken right in front of their eyes, and that left a permanent mark, a mark that lasted decades.
Studies confirmed what these kids already sensed. Unemployment caused spikes in depression, alcohol abuse, domestic conflict. In some counties, divorce rates doubled between 1980 and 1985.
And the kids saw everything. They watched from doorways. They listened through walls. They couldn't understand the economics, but they understood that Dad was different now.
Cities hollowed out, not all at once, house by house. Your neighbor moved, then the house went dark, then the yard grew wild, then another neighbor left.
No 10-year-old understands macroeconomics. No child knows what global trade policy means. What they understood was simpler and more devastating.
The world their parents had promised them was a lie. That's what it felt like. Not a policy failure, not a market correction. A lie, told by every adult they trusted.
These kids grew up with a specific wound, the wound of watching their hometown become a punchline. Flint became a symbol of decay. Gary became a cautionary tale. Youngstown became a metaphor for failure. And if you grew up there, if that place was your identity, then somewhere deep down, you started wondering something terrible. You started wondering, if your town is a failure, maybe you're a failure too. Nobody told these kids that trade policies did this. They just felt it every single day. But here's where the story takes a turn that most people don't expect. These kids didn't all break. Something else happened. Something that nobody predicted. Many of them built something no factory could have given them. Resilience, forged in scarcity. Some became the first in their families to apply to college. Not because the path was easy, but because they'd seen what happens when the only path available suddenly vanishes beneath your feet. They refused to let that happen again. Some stayed and fought for their communities. They became teachers, nurses, small business owners, city council members in towns the rest of America had written off completely. And some carried the lessons forward in quieter ways. They became parents who always kept a savings account, workers who never fully trusted any job was permanent, adults who flinch slightly when they hear about a factory closing somewhere far away, because they know exactly what that headline means for the kids who live nearby. The Rust Belt didn't just produce unemployment statistics, it produced an entire generation shaped by loss. And that generation is running America right now. They're in their 40s and 50s now. They're voters, parents, decision makers. And whether they know it or not, that factory that closed when they were 10 is still inside them. Still influencing every choice they make, every dollar they save. Every time they hear a factory is closing somewhere, they feel it in their chest, like they're 10 again. We talk about the Rust Belt like it's an economic story, like it's about steel and trade deficits and global competition. But it was never really about steel. It was about the kids, sitting at kitchen tables, watching their parents try to hold the world together, and realizing for the first time, the world could actually fall apart. That lesson that everything can disappear, it never leaves you. It shapes how you parent, how you save, how you vote, how you trust, or how you don't. Some of these towns are slowly coming back now. New buildings where old factories stood, coffee shops where unemployment offices used to be. But the scars remain under the surface. If you grew up in the Rust Belt in the 80s, you carry that story in your body, in your hands, in the way you grip things a little tighter than you need to. The Rust Belt story isn't finished. It's still being written by the kids who survived it,
by the communities that refuse to disappear, and by the lessons that refuse to fade.
And if you look closely at any Rust Belt town today, you'll see a kid walking past an old factory, looking up at it, wondering what it was, wondering what happened here.
Now you know. If this story hit you, subscribe. Next week we cover another community transformed overnight and the children who had to survive it. See you there.